planning to record. And so, Rob, when do I start doing that? Probably at the beginning of the program.
I just did.
Oh, perfect. Because it would be nice to capture the warm-up activities. We're
recording
waiting for some people to arrive, and so our
show my face.
Curious. I'm curious. Are you all from Oakland, or are you coming from other places?
Please, everybody, respond in the chat.
Oh,
okay, absolutely.
Everybody see where the chat is?
Oh.
Yeah, let's find our chat. We're going to be using the chat for
Oakland. Yeah, Oakland.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, there's chat. Okay. Okay, so we have 12 participants. Okay, wait. Oh, yes, I'm admitting somebody. I'm trying to look at, so I'm in screen share right now, and I'm not seeing chat for myself.
You have to find your Zoom toolbar.
Yes. I see it. Okay, do I go to the more dots?
Yep.
And
then you should see chat in there.
Oh, I do. Fantastic. So as you can tell, I'm new at this. So we have people in Oakland. Fantastic. We have people from high school. This is going to be a really great collection of people who are curious and interested about Lake Merritt and its history and its biology. So really excited to have a lot of people here. From all I see my sister Allison. Hi, Allison.
Hello, Katie. Can you hear me?
We sure can. Yeah. Thanks for coming.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just looking forward to hearing all about Lake Merritt.
Yeah, this is going to be cool.
Okay.
And now I'm zooming up here. Nice. Okay, we have 17 participants. This is super. I'm wondering if so a lot of people are in Oakland. How many have been to Lake Merritt in the last month or so?
I live across the street.
Oh my gosh, okay. So I've been down there a number of times. It's and I've noticed that a lot of people love to enjoy the park, and just so many amenities. It's such a treasure, so many things to do at Lake Merritt. And so we are, 3 people are in the waiting room. Betsy's here, awesome. Okay, welcome. And I'm going to give a quick call to my, so anyway, so tonight we're going to do a number of things. Our intention was in the 10 or 15 minutes before we start the formal talk is to get to know each other and talk about the idea of migration and immigration as it relates to people. And so a lot of you are in Oakland today. Did you type in the chat? Did you are you from somewhere else originally? Oh yeah, oh yeah. So I've lived in the Bay Area most of my life, and I was a teacher in Oakland for 20 years at Oakland High School. So I really feel like I am an Oaklander, even though I live in Albany, and I've lived there the whole time. So welcome, Bruce. Good to see you. And so we're going to have some warm-up questions, and our warm-up host is on his way. And also we are going to do some trivia relating to Lake Merritt, and that's going to happen. kind of after the formal talk. So we've styled this like the talks that used to take place at the Rotary Nature Center back in the day when the legendary naturalist Paul Covell was chief naturalist, and he would invite people in the community to come and hear a talk about a variety of topics. And we're hoping to do that with our Lakeside chats. We're going to talk to old timers, new people. We're going to explore different ways of looking at the Lakeside Park area. And welcome, Tony. Got Tony from St. Paul's School. It's great to see you here. And I'll talk about you know, just the wonderful wildlife that we have here, the some of the problems that we have here that we're facing as we look to the future. So anyway, feel free to put any question you that you have in the chat, and I will do my best. We have nice to see Deirdre. She's from Boston, and Kate's from Chicago, Washington. So we really are a collection of people from all over a wide area. And that seems to be an Oakland thing. And so we're kind of wondering, you know, how that, you know, we can look at the wildlife and the community of living things at Lake Merritt, and see how we learned that they've come from a variety of different places to interact here in beautiful Lake Merritt. Welcome, Diane, great to see you. So, and think about what it means to be a native to a particular place. So how many of us would consider ourselves Oakland natives, or I must say, okay. So we're going to get our host is going to be here shortly. He has lost his link, so I'm going to send him his link really quickly. And then we were going to begin our formal program as they would have in the day, with our speaker and a few beginning remarks in about 5 minutes. So let me help my co-chair to get into the room. Okay. Oh yeah, okay. Okay. Forward it. Okay. So my name is Katie Noonan, and I am co-chair along with David Wofford of Rotary Nature Center Friends, and we'll tell you more about that at the end of Jim's talk a little bit, but also you'll kind of get the sense of what our vision, what we want to do, bring community together and enjoy our beautiful lake and learn about it and learn about our community. So I am going to find myself. I lost myself. And okay.
We can see you, Katie. You look fine.
Oh, that's great. That is good to hear. Okay, well, as I say, we're really happy to have everybody. In just a few minutes, we're going to start at 7 exactly, which is in 4 minutes. So I want everybody to keep their chat box open. We're going to use it in a couple of ways during our talk, and I'll explain that for everybody after 7. But it's going to be open throughout, and you know, put your questions and comments right there. We have several Rotary Nature Center friends with us tonight who will be manning the chat and harvesting your questions. We'll explain how that goes, but you'll get a chance to ask your question in person and hear an answer well on the screen. And then we are going to try some trivia questions just to get in the mood here of celebration. get a chance for people to compete a little bit with their knowledge of Lake Merritt and earn and win some t-shirts that we have in honor of the 150th anniversary of the Wildlife Refuge. Okay, so we are nearing the beginning of our program. So thank you so much, everybody, for coming in and gathering and sharing with us your places of origin and where you are right now. Casper Valley, okay, San Jose, nice. And so we do have people from all over. Now, of course, because of our sophisticated transport systems and internet, we can be together over such a wide area. It's very cool, and we can interact, and we do influence each other over such a wide area. Okay, well, just a moment, and we will begin. With a okay. All right, so we have 2 minutes. Let's see. Who can tell me for a t-shirt?
What, is this a trivia question?
You know, yeah,
Okay.
it is. So we have just a minute to go, and I would like you to tell me whether Lake Merritt is a lake.
No, it's a tidal lagoon.
Oh, you got it. Oh my gosh. So if you would please identify yourself in chat. You have just earned yourself a commemorative shirt.
Woo!
Such a great answer to kick us off. So Rob, we are 1 minute away, and in 1 minute we are going to begin our program. So we have some harder questions planned for you because we understand that by looking at all of the registrants that we have some people who are really fairly knowledgeable in this group, and we want to give them a little bit of a challenge. So we will be rolling those out later on in the program. And so without further ado, Rob, let's get started with our first Lakeside chat with Dr. Jim Carlton as our speaker. So let's kick it off, Rob. Are we ready? Oh, thank you. Thank you, Rob. That was beautiful. And so I want to formally welcome
There we go.
everyone. Now, is it going to start again? Rob? Okay. Well, okay, so we may run into a few bumps and skips.
Did you guys see that, or should I do it again?
Oh, let's run it one more time. It was very short, but I know it is short. Let's run it one more time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. 17 seconds or 20 seconds.
So that was quite nice. And so we see some of the things that Rotary Nature Center Friends has been involved in the last year or two. So I want to formally welcome all of you to our program tonight. I'm Katie Noonan, and I'm co-chair with David Wofford of Rotary Nature Center Friends. And we are here today to kick off hopefully a year series of talks called Lakeside Chats, which will explore a number of topics and bring together all the different groups of people who interact at Lake Merritt and give our refuge and our community such character. We want to say that this is a special day, December 4th, because it is International Wildlife Conservation Day, which was established in 2012 and became an international day of commemoration. So how fitting for the start of our program. We also want to acknowledge that we are living at this time, and we're entering into a dark time of pandemic. And we feel, we want to say that our hearts go out to the individuals and families who are affected by this pandemic and its widespread effects. And we're hoping that programs like this and many others will provide safe ways for people to interact and explore community and learn new things about our beautiful community. So we want to say that we're going to hear today from Dr. Jim Carlton, who is a longtime Oakland resident, but he has emigrated to the East Coast. But he spent his early days at Lake Merritt. He's going to tell us something about that today and about an ongoing story of science that began with his teenage explorations at Lake Merritt. Dr. Carlton is a professor of marine sciences at Williams College, and he continues to do research, and we're really looking forward to hearing his new take on the unsolved mystery of the Lake Merritt beach hopper. So Jim, take it away.
Okay, great. Can everybody hear me? I'll assume that's yes.
Yes.
And I think folks should mute themselves for a while. Thank you everyone so much for attending tonight. I'm coming to you from Mystic, Connecticut. I gave my first talk at the Rotary Nature Center about 1963. So it's good to be back. And I'm going to tell you a story about some early adventures in Lake Merritt and about a mystery that is yet to be solved about one animal living in the lake. Let me just hang on here as we, Katie, I can't seem to, there we go, got it. In the fall of 1962, I became interested in what lived in the lake, in the marine biology of the lake. I had a goal of making a complete inventory of everything that lived in the lake, the seaweeds, the fish, the invertebrates, all the way down to the smallest protozoans. What I needed, though, was to have help from local biologists to identify all the different species that I was collecting. Back in 1962, that would mean typing out a letter, an envelope, getting an envelope, a postage stamp, and mailing it, and then waiting for a response. First, I had to find out who the local experts were. And that search brought me to two places. One was the UC Berkeley campus, where I met zoologists in the old Life Sciences building, now gone, and to the California Academy of Sciences in Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. The public faces the Steinhardt Aquarium at the time, especially. That's the old Cal Academy that many of you are familiar with, and I met zoologists there as well. In particular, there were two marine biologists named Dusty Shivers and Alan Smith, who were really instrumental in encouraging me, having me bring in specimens to them. I began volunteering there. And if they could not identify my species or the other people who were there, they had resources that I did not have, as a teenager, and there was no web, to provide me with names of experts from all over the country and all over the world to try to write to and see if people could help me. I sent some tiny crustaceans known as ostracods. These are the size of the head of a pin to a specialist in Germany. Hydroids, which are related to jellyfish and sea anemones, and some bryozoans, which are colonial animals, to specialists in England. Worms to Canada, more bryozoans to the University of Southern California. Amphipods, which we'll talk about in a little bit, small crustaceans, to the Smithsonian, Washington, D.C., and to many others as well, as I began creating a network of people who could identify all the various things that I was finding in Lake Merritt. Now it's about 2 years later. Things were going fairly well. I was writing to famous scientists all over the world. They would respond to me. I would package up my specimens and walk down to the local post office near Lakeshore Avenue and mail them off. And what would come back time after time would be that what I had sent to a specialist somewhere was the first record of that species from the Pacific coast. It was known from somewhere else in the world. A first record for San Francisco Bay. I thought that was all pretty cool. And so as time went by, I decided that I was in fact a survey. And so I went down to a local print shop in downtown Oakland and I ordered a ream of paper, a ream of stationery, and I was the Lake Merritt Biological Survey with that address, which was my home address in Oakland. Things were going pretty well at that time. That lasted, however, only about 2 years until I got a nice letter from a young scientist in Canada who was helping me identify some worms from the lake, asking if I had any postdoctoral positions available. I had to write him back and tell him that I was in high school. And after that, I phased out my Lake Merritt Biological Survey stationery. Back to the explorations in the lake, one of the animals I found on the beach at Adams Point in Lake Merritt was a beach hopper. A small animal, less than 1 inch long. And the beach at Adams Point is probably in much the same condition and size as it has been for a long, long time. One of the remnants of the old lake, very likely, coming down from the rubble and the little point that makes up that part of Lakeside Park. Beach hoppers live in a very narrow, very precarious existence. They live just on the upper parts of beaches, under seaweed, wood, and stones, things that are washed ashore. It's called the rack line or the strand zone. They require this damp, salty environment, but they drown in water and they die on land. That's a very narrow existence. And for a great many species around the world that live in this rack line or strand zone, it's a very risky place because where there were a lot of these kinds of habitats are now seawalls, roads, and so on, long since destroying that habitat in many places. What are beach hoppers? You'll remember from your high school or college biology classes that there are phyla classes and so on. There's a hierarchy of taxonomy. Arthropods include insects, spiders, mites, millipedes, crustaceans, lots of other things. Crustaceans include barnacles and lobsters, crabs, shrimps, crayfish, brine shrimp, many smaller things. Crabs and shrimp and smaller crustaceans are in a group called the Malacostraca, which include the amphipods, which have an unfortunate name of scud. And under this amphipods, there are many families, one of which are the beach hoppers, shore hoppers, and land hoppers. Beach hoppers are also called beach fleas. They're not fleas. Fleas are insects, and so we're going to stay with beach hopper instead. The known beach hoppers of the Bay Area included a number of species, some of which have been recognized for a great long period of time, often living on the open coast on sandy beaches, making their way in through the Golden Gate, around the islands, in terms of Angel Island, or yerba buena, some making it over to the East Bay side, and that little one down there at the bottom, Traskiana, common along bay shores. The question was the Lake Merritt beach hopper one of these species already known? But that would require an amphipod expert to tell. A likely candidate was Trasorchestia traskiana. This is a species that was described from San Francisco Bay in 1856 in one of the first issues of the Proceedings of the California Academy of Sciences. So it's possible that what was in Lake Merritt was that same species common along bay shores, and was said to be back in the 1850s, very common among the rejectamenta, the debris washed ashore at the high water mark of San Francisco Bay. Now you remember that one of those lines of communication that I was establishing was with the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C., called the United States National Museum at the time, now called the National Museum of Natural History. One of those scientists was an amphipod person, an amphipod specialist named J. Lawrence Bernard, Jerry Bernard. Now, you might think an amphipod expert is all you would need to identify an amphipod. But it turns out Dr. Bernard wasn't a beach hopper amphipod guy. That would require another expert. So Dr. Bernard sent me up to Dr. Edward Bousfield in Ottawa, Canada. I wrote to him. He was a specialist, as it turns out, on the beach hoppers of the Pacific coast of North America. So I sent him some specimens in 1966. 54 years later, my copy of the letter that he sent me, his response isn't in perfect shape. Here's what it looks like today. But in fact, some of it is still readable. And what he wrote to me was to say that this material is inestia, unlike anything I've ever seen from the American Pacific coast. So that was pretty interesting. He soon concluded that the Lake Merritt beach hopper was almost certainly an undescribed new species, and that since a great amount of the Pacific coast was very well explored for this group of animals, and since Lake Merritt was already known to harbor many introduced species from all over the world, it probably was not native. But where it came from, he couldn't say. It was a mystery. So in 1967, Dr. Bousfield kindly made me a co-author on a scientific paper. It was my first scientific paper in a published paper in a scientific journal, describing this mystery. It was a puzzle to him, and we called it Orchestia Enigmatica, and with records of these new amphipods from the Central California coast. You can note my address was the Rotary Nature Center. Paul Cavell gave me permission to use that address. These were simpler times. To do that today would probably require an incredible amount of paperwork through City Hall, but Paul just said, go ahead. Remember, there was no more Lake Merritt Biological Survey after the postdoc debacle. Things were quiet in my beach hopper world, in the Lake Merritt beach hopper world for a couple of years. And then I received a letter from Dr. Bousfield 2.5 years later in the spring of 1970. By this time, my address was at the California Academy of Sciences, where I was a volunteer there. And what Dr. Bousfield wrote was that he had just recently collected specimens of an amphipod, a beach hopper in Chile, called Orchestia chiliensis. And he wrote me, does it look strangely familiar to you? He concluded that in fact, what was in Lake Merritt was indeed Orchestia chiliensis. They were the same. So mystery solved. The Lake Merritt beach hopper was from Chile, could be from Peru, where the chiliensis was also known. And the question then became, how did it get from South America to Lake Merritt, to a little beach at Adams Point? Dr. Bousfield asked me if it was possible that the Chilean beach hopper could have been picked up by ships specifically in the solid ballast of ships, stones and shingles, sand, shore debris, so that when a ship unloads its cargo and is empty, it has to make the return voyage with a nearly equal amount of weight so that it's stable at sea. This would have happened in the early days of sailing ships, probably. I took that question over to the curators at the San Francisco Maritime Museum. The old view of the museum is there as well. They interviewed and they had an oral history program of old deep water sailors who would visit the museum and who they knew, including one Henry Brammer. Mr. Brammer told them that in the 1920s, lumber and grain ships from California would go to Chile, offload their cargo, and then load up with ballast from the shore in Valparaiso, Antofagasta, or Iquique. Typical scene along the California coast, Oregon and Washington back in the early part of the last century, sailing ships loading lumber to go to various places in the world. Mr. Brammer also said that when they arrived in San Francisco Bay, they often dumped that ballast in places like the Oakland Estuary, which for many of you, as you well know, there is a channel that connects the Oakland Estuary to Lake Merritt, and that channel has been in place for a long, long time. Changed over the years, manicured in some ways, restricted, but still a channel remained. And back 100 years ago, it would have been fairly free-flowing. So that now solved both the source and the transport vector. Learning about shore ballast led me to many years, decades of study about the role of what's called solid ballast versus ballast water, moving species all over the world in the days of sailing ships. And that's quite another story, but involved a lot of plants, insects, and many other species. Now 12 years pass. It's 1982. Ed Bousfield is still working on amphipods in Canada. He publishes a revision of beach hopper taxonomy. He gets new material from Chile, and Ed concludes that Enigmatica from Lake Merritt is in fact not Orchestia chiliensis. It's a good species. It's not the same. He puts it in a new genus called Transorchestia, which also includes some species from Australia and New Zealand. And he concludes that while it's not what he thought it was a few years earlier, it must still be from somewhere in the southern hemisphere. So now the mystery deepens. It's not from Chile, but it's from somewhere in the wide South Pacific. And yet it's not been discovered there. Things were quiet again in the beach hopper world, this time for 37 more years. Just last year, in February 2019, two specialists on beach hoppers published a long monograph working from Australia and Ireland, and included the kinds of amphipods and beach hoppers in which the Lake Merritt amphipod resided. And buried in this monograph was an unexpected twist about our Lake Merritt beach hopper story. And that is, in describing another genus called Bulychaeva, they discovered that Enigmatica's closest relatives are from the northern hemisphere, not from the southern hemisphere at all. And that its closest relatives were Georgiana, which ranges from Canada to Baja California, but is not known from San Francisco Bay, and another species called Oketensis, which is in Honshu, Hokkaido, and ranges around to Prince William Sound, but is very strongly linked over to the Northwest Pacific along the Asian coast. Thus, the two closest relatives to the Lake Merritt beach hopper occur in the North Pacific Ocean and not the South Pacific Ocean. Ed Bousfield did not live long enough to learn this change of story. He passed away a few years ago. So in case you lost track, over the past half-century story, in 1967, the Lake Merritt beach hopper was Orchestia enigmatica, known only from the lake. In 1970, there was Orchestia chiliensis, which had been described as early as 1840, and it was introduced from Chile by ballast water, and it was a very nice, tight story. By 1982, it wasn't really chiliensis. It was back to enigmatica as its own species. It was still introduced from the Southern Hemisphere, still only known from Lake Merritt. And in 2019, it's in another genus called Bulychaeva. Its closest relatives are in the Northern Hemisphere, and it still remains known only from San Francisco Bay, and specifically from Lake Merritt. Is it possible that our Lake Merritt beach hopper is endemic to San Francisco Bay? Excuse me. What we can say is that no other well-studied group of invertebrates are known only from San Francisco Bay. There's no other species of well-studied groups that are found just in the bay. This would be the only case. There are very small, like protozoans, that are only described from the bay, but that's simply because no one has looked elsewhere. In the case of this amphipod, this beach hopper, people have looked elsewhere. Genetic studies might help us, but in the meantime, in the list of interesting stories and interesting mysteries of San Francisco Bay, this remains one of the greatest puzzles, and we're going to have to stay tuned to see where this story takes us. The ongoing saga of the Lake Merritt beach hopper is not yet finished. Thank you very much. We didn't want to keep you very long, but I'm happy to open up to questions and discussions and chats. Back over to you, Katie.
Mute. Great. So can you stop screen sharing then, Jim?
Yep.
Okay. Is everybody, fantastic. That was such an intriguing story. So what we'd like to do here now is to just do a bit of housekeeping on how we're going to handle the questions. So if you have a question, please type it in the chat, and then go to your raise your hand. So just to, does everybody know how to, has everybody found the chat and been able to type things in?
Hey, Katie, if I could just jump in, to raise your hand, you open up the participants button,
Right.
and you'll see a blue hand in there, and you just raise your hand. And so Tony Bald has a question.
Tony, go for it. Okay, so Tony, Tony is going to unmute himself, and then will we be able to see Tony?
All right. Hey there, Jim. I had a question. When you were first starting to find these, when you're starting to catalog back in the day, did you initially take pictures, or did you draw or sketch? Or because I saw some sketches early on.
Yeah, thanks for the question. I did both. I took endless notes, which were first handwritten and then typed out. I sketched a lot of the lake and where things were in the lake. I sketched some of the smaller species that I saw under the microscope. And then I took an awful lot of pictures as well with an old camera. And and most of my collection ended up on 35 millimeter color slides, of which some of them remain in that condition, but quite an archive of pictures from the 1960s until the early 1970s. So I studied the lake for about 10 years intensively, and then have visited pretty regularly ever since then.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a question from Jonathan now. Jonathan,
hi.
Go for it.
Hey. First off, thank you so much for your time, Jim. I appreciate it. I can't tell you how much I love this story. So it's cool hearing it firsthand. I guess part of it, so recently when I read this story online, I was like, hey, I want to check these things out. I couldn't find any information about that. I didn't know what would be a good time of the year, when to go, what part of the water, how deep or not so deep I should be going.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess part of the question is, is there kind of a guide to seeing these firsthand? And the second part of that question is that a good idea, or would that open up the door to too many people going and checking it out? And yeah,
Yeah,
thanks.
Yeah, good question. Adams Point is part of the public Lakeside Park, and one can scramble down there along the way. One of the reasons we think that it has been protected and still existed for decades at the lake, and probably was introduced from somewhere in the late 1800s or early 1900s, is because it's a bit of inaccessible area. One has to scramble down through some bush and get down into what is often somewhat of a mucky area that isn't very appealing. At low water, I can't say low tide, but at low water, when the lake's water is regulated, one can go down there, turn over a few boards, a few rocks, and you'll see the beach hoppers hopping around. We wouldn't want a lot of people going down there to take a souvenir. And at one time, a Smithsonian biologist named Tom Bowman wrote a little manuscript that was never published, proposing that the Lake Merritt beach hoppers should be classified as an endangered species because its entire known range in the world was 1,000 feet or so. But if you want to go down and look and not collect them, it's a pretty little beach hopper amphipod. They're not easy to catch because they hop away from you, but it's very cool, and you can go down and see them almost any time.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
All right, we have some great questions here. Rob, do you have one that's next? I'm having a hard time seeing who is next.
Well, there's a question from Jenny asking about the native. Are there any native species left? And if Jenny wants to unmute, you're welcome to.
I can go ahead and answer that. Thanks, Jenny. There are native species in Lake Merritt. There are a lot of native species left in San Francisco Bay. In Lake Merritt today, we have a mixture of both the native species and a lot of introduced species. That ratio varies around the year, depending upon the salinity, the temperature, the amount of fresh water that comes into the lake. For many, many years, most of the species in the lake, most of the common species of the lake were from around the world: Europe, the Atlantic coast, New Zealand. We thought Chile at one time, Japan. And they got into Lake Merritt and the bay through lots of mechanisms, through shipping, through the commercial oyster industries that brought species over from the Atlantic and Japanese coasts. But that balance has changed a little bit as the lake has gotten a little bit more marine and now operates more as an arm of the Oakland estuary. Still a lot of introduced species in Lake Merritt and of course around San Francisco Bay as well. Total number of introduced species in the Bay Area in the aquatic environment, the marine environment, about 300 or so.
400 or 500 is what I heard. Hello, are you there?
Hello. We have a question from Bruce. Bruce, would you like to unmute, and Bruce Kuhn, would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Hi, Bruce.
Hello. Hi, it's Darlene.
Hi,
Hey.
hi, Jim.
Hi there.
Hi. We're friends from way back. I want to know what happened to the Mercerella animatica.
Yeah, Mercerella animatica is still in the lake. It's not in the numbers or sizes of population, excuse me, that it used to be back in the 60s. There are still populations at the either end of either arm of the lake, and small populations everywhere, so it's still there. The name changed, unfortunately. It's called Phycopomatus now, but Mercerella is still a very familiar name. It's also around parts of other parts of San Francisco Bay. From the 1920s to the 1990s, the only place the tube worm was known on the entire Pacific coast from Alaska south was San Francisco Bay. In the 1990s, it mysteriously appeared in Elkhorn Slough in Monterey Bay. And then a few years later, it began to appear in the harbors of Southern California. So having been restricted for almost the entire 20th century into San Francisco Bay, and especially Lake Merritt, it then began to spread. It's one of the mysteries of invasions as to why species sit put for a long time and then begin to spread. Probably what's in Elkhorn Slough came from San Francisco Bay, but what's in Southern California might have come from somewhere else. but still around. Good question.
We have a question from Joy. Joy, would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Okay, hello. Thank you for this amazing presentation. It was just fascinating. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joy.
I wondered, I had two questions. How long is this creature? What is the size of it? I didn't have anything to scale it by in the photos.
Mm-hmm.
It's about a ½ inch long, about a ½ inch.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And the other question I posted was, is anyone actively continuing to research this mystery, or is it just sort of accepted as an unsolved mystery at this point?
We hope this can be solved through some genetic work. A lot of taxonomy and systematics these days can be approached through molecular genetics. We have material of the Lake Merritt amphipod, beach hopper, ready for genetic analysis. We just need to get comparative material of what are thought to be its closest relatives elsewhere in the North Pacific. And once we get that lined up, we're going to see if we can convince someone to do the analysis of the DNA and see how these species line up and how close they are to each other or not. And then we might be able to get a clue as to where it came from and pursue that. I suspect it's from a similar habitat, a lagoon or estuary from somewhere in the Northwest Pacific, somewhere around Japan or further north, but that's just a guess.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yes. Let's see. Someone asked about where you can see the species, all the species that are found in Lake Merritt. And I just wanted to mention that iNaturalist is a great place to go to see species that have been observed in Lake Merritt. It's inaturalist.org. Just a little bit of learning how to navigate in there, and you can look at any of the 7 special projects related to Lake Merritt. And then you can also just look at geographical areas and see what people find there and get pictures of them. So it gives you a visual take on that. Are there other questions? I have a question, but I want to survey.
I see your question, Katie. This is David, and I'm wondering if Bruce's question about the Mercerella enigmatic got answered and what happened to it.
Yes, it did.
Okay, thank you.
I think we're moved on to, is there a website? You talked about, but there is also a non-native species that was done by the Academy of Sciences of what was done in the Bay. I don't know if there's a specific species list in Lake Merritt.
Go ahead. Jim, you want to take that one?
iNaturalist remains a really good place to look for many of the species that are in Lake Merritt, and there are a few published lists out there in the literature. Again, it's an evolving story. We did a extensive survey of the lake back in 2016 to compare to my work from 50 years earlier, and Katie Noonan has kept up a long list as well. So it's out there, definitely, and we'd be happy to chat with anybody who wants to learn more about the whole list or about any particular species. I do see a question from Imani, is it? Are you there, Imani Cheeks? If
we
not,
also have a question, another question from Bruce Benedictus that I can read if need be.
I'm here.
Oh, wait.
Imani's there?
Yeah, sorry. Hi, I'm a high school student. I'm an AP Environmental Science, and I just wanted to say thank you because this was such a wonderful presentation. But I just wanted to ask, for James, what keeps you so dedicated to your research?
Yeah, thank you. My interest in the world of non-native species and how species from so many places around the world ended up in San Francisco Bay began in Lake Merritt when I first discovered the tube worm there. I didn't discover it. I personally found it there, but it had been known there already before. And then when I went to the Nature Center, there was a specimen of the tube worm, and there was a little label underneath, and it said it was from the South Seas. That really captured my fancy as to how something from the South Seas could be in the lake. That launched my further investigations of the lake, and I found the beach hopper and many other species. From there, I expanded my interest to trying to understand the non-native species of San Francisco Bay. Eventually, I did my graduate work on the non-native species from Alaska to Mexico. And since then, I've been working all over the world to try to understand how maritime history links to marine biology, and that the last 500 or more years of ships sailing around the world actually ended up spreading thousands of species around the world. But a great many of those were spread around before there were any marine biologists. So we're still playing a lot of catch up between the 1500s and 1600s and 1700s as to what was distributed before we got there as biologists. So right now we have current work going on in the Galapagos Islands to see what's all the species that have come there for 500 years, and done some work in Hawaii quite a bit, Chile as well, Argentina. So the story goes on. We're trying to reconstruct what the world looked like before we began spreading species around the world, and also what's still happening now.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Bruce, we have a question from Bruce. That's great to hear, Imani, to hear a question from a high school student. It's great. Bruce, do you have a question? Bruce de Benedictus, are you with us? Okay, we're oh, yes.
I just wanted to know what are the visual cues that we should look for to distinguish this from other beach hoppers?
Yeah, yeah, thanks. It turns out they're pretty microscopic characters, and you have to get them under the microscope and compare parts of the anatomy of what are called the front appendages, the antennae, some of the legs, and so on. Pretty distinctive once you get them under the scope, and then learn the parts of an amphipod, which is a lot of jargon, unfortunately. The legs are called pariapods, and there's all kinds of other stuff there, but not so hard once you start comparing specimens. Our local books for California identification of marine invertebrates are pretty good, and one of those books called the Light and Smith Manual has keys and drawings that include the Lake Merritt beach hopper and its comparison to the other species.
Okay, cruising around here. I have a question about the and I have a question about how the beach hopper fits in with other species at Lake Merritt. What eats it, and I think you mentioned what it ate.
Yeah.
Lake Merritt has seen a huge amount of changes, and yet they found beach hoppers in the 60s, and we found them as recently as this year or last year.
Yeah.
So,
and if we think it came in with sailing ships, then it's been in the lake for a long time, it does eat detritus on the shore, organic material. It has no other beach hopper there to interact with it, so it's got a good thing going there in terms of competition. And I don't believe we know what eats it, but surely some shorebirds might be able to get it and things like that. It does show up occasionally around other parts of the lake after storms. We can get it at the other end of the lake on what I used to call the 12th Street Beach. But generally that population has hung along that shore for probably better than 100 years and has maintained itself, which is pretty remarkable. But predators we don't know. And fortunately, it's has a very broad diet, which might have helped its being able to sustain there for so long.
Thanks.
I believe we have a Mitch in the queue with a question. Mitch, are you there with a question?
Yeah. one of the questions was just answered concerning if it had any natural predators. And then I guess the other question I had was, is the population at the lake stable?
Yeah, we don't have any real long-term data on that. It's been what we call collectible on demand on any visit. Doubtless the population size has gone up and down for various reasons. And the risk of the species is whether someone would get it in their mind to manicure that part of Adams Point. It is probably one of the only parts of the lake that remain somewhat like it might have been 100 years ago. It's just a sort of a rubble, muddy, sandy beach at the bottom of that vegetated hill on that slope. So, and I've always thought that if someone wanted to go ahead and put a wall there or clean it up, as it were, getting the idea that it should look like the rest of the lake's margin, that would doubtless take out the population. And as far as we know, it would be gone until we discover it somewhere else in the world. So the stability comes from the fact that that little part of the lake has remained relatively untouched for so long, which is pretty cool for at least this little beach hopper.
Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. So, so I have, are there other questions out here? I'm not seeing the full, oh, we do have another question from Bruce.
Yeah, and Richard has his hand up.
And Richard, okay, let's go to Richard and then to Bruce.
Richard, you're muted. Richard, there you go.
Adjacent to the Bandstand Beach is a rock wall, an old one, probably crumbling a bit. Is it possible the hoppers could be living in the cracks at the right tide level there?
Yeah, we've never seen it in that habitat. I have looked in the cracks on the retaining walls around the lake. Not impossible that some of them after a storm, excuse me, could get washed around and caught up in that kind of environment. I suspect that it's not a permanent habitat for them because they do like to work on that rotting seaweed and that little bit of vegetation and organic material that seems to sustain them. But it's probably a pretty plastic species in some way. So finding the occasional individual in a little crevice somewhere around the lake, not impossible, but it's really the kind of species that does live on that sandy, muddy, high beach environment. And that's where it's evolved to, we think, wherever it originally came from.
Okay, thank you. And we had we had Bruce. And then I think, yeah, we can maybe try some trivia after that. Okay, so Bruce, go ahead, introduce yourself.
Okay, go ahead. It's actually Darlene. She has a whole list of your of your species. This is dated 1966.
Yeah,
and Darlene wants to know in particular.
I want to know if the shrimp known as Pylomon macrodactylus is still in Lake Merritt.
Yes.
I remember it was a very interesting looking, very transparent shrimp that was in the lake.
What a good memory you have, and remembering all those Latin names too. It is still in the lake, and that's a fascinating shrimp. It first showed up in San Francisco Bay in the early 1950s, and soon became a member of Lake Merritt and is still there. And that's where it was for many years until it showed up in Europe about 10 years ago. And now we have it right in our own backyard here in Long Island Sound. So a species, one of the very first species that I met and its name I learned in Lake Merritt has shown up here right on the Atlantic coast as well. That's still around. Yeah, it's about 3 inches long and it's technically edible. Doesn't make kind of a small hors d'oeuvre on a small cracker. Yeah.
Probably not a good idea to eat it out of Lake Merritt either.
Oh, maybe not.
Katie, before we go to trivia, may I ask how or why is it that the beach hopper is less edible than the baby shrimp that I'm familiar with?
Yeah, a good question. It is technically edible, but it's just a little half-inch long thing, and so it's sort of a micro hors d'oeuvre. But we probably don't want people eating it since the only place it exists is this 1,000-foot stretch of beach, and I think it'd be better not to test it.
If it was in plentiful supply, though, it could be considered like baby shrimp, if you will.
It could be. I suspect it tastes about the same. Yeah, I've never eaten one, not yet. Yeah.
Well, don't start on my account.
No. Yes.
Okay, well, these have been great questions, and we can return to them in just a minute. Is there anyone? Are there any other outstanding questions that we really should get to right away before we try some trivia?
I do see one more question about are they special or important, and are they in any way a good study animal for invasions? There's been a fair amount of work on the ecology of beach hoppers in many places around the world. They turn out to be pretty important in as consumers of algal vegetation, as it were, on the beaches, and cycling vegetation on beaches, and especially when they get in large numbers. They are also well known to be prey of a lot of shorebirds and things like that in other parts of the world. And I think they are a good model for study for invasions because they're highly accessible. One doesn't need a particularly low tide to get to them, and often in many areas of the world, very abundant and have fascinating behaviors in terms of lunar cycles, orientation to water, and things like that. So well-studied groups and pretty cool.
That is so cool. Yeah. Well, thank you, whoever put all this wonderful resources in the chat. I haven't been able to scroll up, but thank you so much. So with everybody to stretch your arms, and as we have a couple of specially prepared trivia questions, and we'll be using the same format that we have been using. And in that, we'll be answering these questions in the chat. And then somebody who is looking at the chat will find the person who answers the question correctly first, and that person will be the winner. The winner will receive, I will show you in just a minute. We'll start our show here. Okay, here we are commemorating International Wildlife Conservation Day. Here is the beautiful t-shirt designed by Rex Burris, Rotary Nature Center naturalist for over 40 years. And then we will have a series of questions. There will be a question, and we'll take about 2 or 3 seconds. And then if somebody who's looking at chat can shout out, we have an answer. I guess I have to look at it too. Okay, so.
Well, I'll do that, but just remind people they can't shout it out. They have to type it down.
That is absolutely true.
Just like you were in class.
Yep. And raise your hand too, that helps. Okay. All right, so here we go. First question. Which person was the first to observe or post a photograph of the Lake Merritt beach hopper on iNaturalist? Listed persons may not answer this one. Okay, we have Jim Carlton, Damon Tye, Allison Young, Kenichi Ueda, and Liam Donahue. Okay. Do we have anybody answering that question?
We have a Jim Carlton, we have Damon Teague, we have Jim Carlton, we have Damon Keeb, we have Ken Inichi Ueda.
Stop. Okay, so our correct answer is Kenichi. He was the first to, his earliest post on the iNaturalist website that Adrian gave us such a beautiful reference to, and where I got this question. So Kenichi,
so that's Rebecca Johnson.
All right, yay, Rebecca. So Kenichi, you want to give us all a wave? You're here. Can you unmute yourself and wave to us? I hope he was here earlier.
Here I am.
All right. So, I mean, yeah, congratulations. Okay. So, and so the person who did answer, Kenichi, they have a T-shirt. You need to give give us your size of T-shirt that you want, and address where we can send it, or an email so we can converse with you about the about it, how we can get it to you. Okay, now the next question is, what is a watershed? An area of land that drains into a body of water, a shed where water is stored, a water closet, a big moment, or a body of water that receives water from the land.
So we've got an area of land that drains into a body of water. We have two of those.
Okay, so let's get both of those people close. Bingo, that is the correct answer.
Bruce and Samuel.
Bruce and Samuel, congratulations. You have won T-shirts. And that's some very important thing that we need to get across to everybody, that wherever you are still contributing to the quality of water in our local waterways.
How do we get the?
Oh, we have a question. You have a question?
Yeah. How do we get the shirts? Like, do you mail them to us or something?
Yes. So the way you'll get them is I can meet people at the Rotary Nature Center and give them their shirts. Or if that's not feasible for you, I can mail it to you, and I'm probably going to ask you to pay postage, but we will communicate about that via email. Okay, so be sure that you get your email to one of our workers in the chat, Patty or Kirsten. Okay, so this is the last one before we go back to having some conversation, because we want to take good advantage of that and really like all the questions we've received. So which SpongeBob character does not live in Lake Merritt? SpongeBob, Patrick Star, Plankton, or Mr. Krabs? Anybody can go for that?
I don't see the right answer yet. We have SpongeBob. We have sponges in the lake, so they're there. I don't see the right answer yet.
Come on, people! Come on, people! It's 1 out of 4. So
what doesn't like? Oh, there we go. We got Patrick Star. Declan got it. Declan.
Good job, Declan. Yeah. So there are no sea stars that we know of in Lake Merritt, although there was one recovered, I think, in the 2016 survey, but it was just one individual and it was in the lab, so there was not sure about that one. Okay, and so our first municipal naturalist was, of course, last one.
We have a Samuel Merritt. We have Samuel Merritt. We have maybe. We have another Samuel Merritt. We have Mott.
Wow.
Paul Cavell.
Paul Cavell is the right answer.
Joy got it.
All right, collect that person's information and we can go on now. We have approximately 5 minutes left, and we do have some concluding slides to share with you about our upcoming talks that we're going to have. You've all made this a very special talk with all great questions and your attendance. And where are we? I might want to mention an opportunity coming up. Cal Academy is having a snapshot day. And while this is a time where people who can go out and observe what's in Lake Merritt and record it can contribute in a socially distanced and COVID safe way. All right, so I'm going to turn this over to David, and he is going to share our upcoming talks. Okay, so
here I am, and hello, everyone.
Go ahead, David, go.
Thank you, Katie, and thank you everyone for joining us this evening. As we're so happy to launch the first of our Lakeside Chats, a year-long series that we plan to do monthly, that we've scheduled out through April. And do I have a slide that represents our schedule?
We're seeing the January one. Can you see that?
I do.
All right, why don't you just read it off and we'll go through the next two.
Okay. Yes, our very next event will take place on Friday, January 8th, again from 7 to 8 p.m. And it'll feature the title Stories from the Early Days of Lake Merritt. It's featuring Jim Covell, director, one of the directors down at the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and the son of Paul Covell, the founder of the Rotary Nature Center and the primary developer of the wildlife refuge there at Lake Merritt. And Jim will share about his experiences growing up there at Lake Merritt while his father developed the Nature Center and the programming for the wildlife refuge. Shall we move on to the next slide? So, and then we jump from.
I think we're going back and forth. Let's just go ahead and we'll get
wonderful.
The next.
Because in March we'll be featuring birding at Lake Merritt, and we'll have Hillary Powers coming in from the Golden Gate Audubon Society. And Hillary is a woman who has, I want to call her local. She's been immersed in Lake Merritt for so many years and leading and guiding bird walks and tours and teaching people about the birds and their adaptation patterns and their experience there at Lake Merritt. And we really look forward to sharing and hearing more from Hillary in March. That'll be March 5th. Again, Friday, 7 to 8 p.m. And
this is Lake Merritt is Hillary's patch, she calls it. She knows the birds and their changes over the seasons. She's been there for over almost 2 decades, I would say, with monthly walks. So she can really give us some on the ground information. She's a wonderful writer and speaker, and I know you'll enjoy her. Okay, and
we see here a slide that speaks to the mission of the Rotary Nature Center Friends. I'll share it since it's the Rotary Nature Center Friends is a citizens group advocating for the Rotary Nature Center in Lakeside Park and delivering and developing interpretive nature and science programs. And that's what we're about. I just want to pause for a moment because we have a missing slide that I want to speak to that represents February. February 5th, Friday, February 5th from 7 to 8 p.m. We'll feature Carl Anthony, and the topic will be the Earth, the city, and the hidden narrative of race. And that'll be a wonderful sharing and a wonderful narrative. Carl is an architect and a landscaper and frankly, a living legend in the environmental movement as an elder and one of the, if I may say, African Americans that was early on a significant part of the environmental movement, both here in the Bay Area and nationally. So we look forward to that.
We very much do. David, can I interrupt you because Kenichi had a question that we didn't get answered, or we missed in the chat. Kenichi, can you unmute yourself and ask your question? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Great.
Yeah, my question was it was a bit more, it was a question for Jim about how basically the cosmopolitan ecology of Lake Merritt makes him feel, which is kind of a complicated question.
Yeah, what a great question.
When I walk around Lake Merritt, I feel conflicting thoughts about being interested in what I might find there and also sad by what has been lost or, how it gets trashed. So I'm curious how it makes you feel, Jim, since you've been visiting the lake for so much longer than I have and seen it change in more ways than I have.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. That's an excellent question. And it's one I think about all over the world because many of the places I study, many of the aspect dominant species, many of the predominant species are not native. And what we have lost is a sense of what those communities and ecosystems, how they worked, how they were structured, how energy flowed, the interactions between species before we had all these altered communities. So there are cultural and social aspects to that question. There are purely scientific and academic aspects to that question. On the social and cultural side, a great many species, as you know, and many of the people who are listening tonight know, a great many species that are on land at the lake, the trees and other plants, many of the species around the whole Bay Area, much of our landscape and our seascape consists of species that have come from other parts of the world, often accidentally, but very often intentionally. On the California landscape, and we have many, many examples of that, eucalyptus groves and so on. So many people who have grown up with very familiar non-native species in their environment do not feel that that has been a bad thing. For those of us who grew up and visited Golden Gate Park as children many years ago, the smell of eucalyptus can be very nostalgic. But it's a tree from Australia. And we today, it's very unlikely that we would introduce the eucalyptus. My feeling is that yes, I think it would have been fascinating to see San Francisco Bay and Lake Merritt in its more aboriginal state. It gets complicated, and I don't want to go on for more than another 3 hours about this, but the bay is a highly modified system. Invasions have been one aspect of how the bay has changed, but hydrographically, geologically, the bay margins have been changed radically by development, by filling, by dredging. So it's a complicated system where even if the invasions weren't there, we still would not have the original San Francisco Bay by any means. There are places that were mapped in the 1840s that were 50 feet deep in San Francisco Bay that are now basically intertidal mudflats. So vast changes. But that all said, one of our big efforts today is that we try to prevent future invasions so that no matter what has passed, do no further harm. And part of that reasoning is that we know that a great many non-native species have had very serious economic impacts, public health impacts, generally environmental impacts, and the list goes on and on. And so we'd rather not add more species, even as we have already had a fairly long legacy of species being added. Back to Lake Merritt, and to wrap up this long answer to your good question, we know the lake was quite different back in the 1870s, for example. Invasions had already begun by then, but evidence we have from what people observed in the lake back more than 100 years ago was that there were interesting mudflats there at low tide, and it supported one of the great populations of our native California horned snail. Gone from the lake for a long time, but very rich populations were there at one time. So it would have been fascinating to see that, how that all operated. But we're left with what is now one of the great examples in the world of an accidental zoo.
Let's take, before we're at the end of our hour, I know it's really late back there in Mystic. We want to be sure that everybody gets to see our thank you slide for all of our partners. So I wonder if we could just show that briefly. Yes. Okay, and so you know, we've been working at Lake Merritt for quite a while now, last 3 years, and just want to tell our great thanks that we have for some of our civic leaders that have helped us out. The mayor, Nikki Bass, Dan Kalb, Lynette McElhaney, the Sierra Club, East Bay Regional Parks, the BART director, Robert Rayburn, East Lake Neighbors, the Frederick E. Hart Foundation for Educational Opportunity, the Oakland Zoo, San Francisco Elks Lodge number 3, the San Francisco Save San Francisco Bay, East Bay for Everyone, Golden Gate Audubon Society, the Lake Merritt Institute, Breakthrough Communities, Earth House, Golden Gate Audubon twice, and Oakland Unified School District, wonderful kids there, and the Environmental Justice Caucus of Teachers, and of course, Oakland Public Works Adopt a Spot that encourages stewardship. So thank you for that. So these are some of the activities. As stewards of the Lake Merritt Wildlife Refuge, we regularly host school groups and members of the general population at Lake Merritt when it is safe to do so. So we have done bird watching, nature walks, native plant identification, weeding, planting, and testing lake water. We have virtual and online activities, and we're developing more as we're going to be spending a lot of time in remote and distant situations. And we have more? Oh, yes. So we're a citizens group, Rotary Nature Center Friends, advocating for the Rotary Nature Center in Lakeside Park and delivering interpretive nature and science programs. So thank you. I think that's it. So we're welcome to stay a little bit longer. I know it's really late on the East Coast, and so we can talk amongst ourselves. And Jim, if you need to turn in soon, that's fine.
You know,
It's really
Katie, I
been
think
a
I would,
pleasure to have you.
Katie, if you can hear me, I think I would like to
I can go for it.
speak to our upcoming speaker series, the Lakeside Chats, and frankly to the last question and comment from Jim, because I feel like what they were discussing in terms of what we're holding here at Lake Merritt and what we're holding here as a community and as a society of human beings on this planet, you know, they were talking about in a microcosm what we have experienced on a little basis around the planet as it has evolved and we have impacted it. And, you know, here at Lake Merritt, we are endeavoring and we're somewhat in a position to monitor and record and look at that experience. And the Lakeside Chats and all of our work and all of our partners and all of you who have joined us tonight is very inspirational. And I wanted to speak to it about why we gather and what we hope to inspire and what we're about. Because we hope to continue to explore and answer those questions. Well, you know, and to develop our own capacity to look at that and to hold it and to share with one another. And I think that was significant enough to mention as we close out this evening. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we look forward to more.
We'll be sending, have recorded this and we'll be making the recording available on YouTube as soon as we can. And definitely we'll be sending information, post-event information to you via the Eventbrite. So really, thank you, Jim. This was just an amazing presentation. We're so lucky to have you here with us tonight.
Quite welcome. It's been a great pleasure and great questions from everybody, and good to see so many of you tonight.
Thank you. Okay. So good night, everyone. I think we are going to say good night, but stay in touch. We'll be sending you information about the next chat, and we'd love to have the community here to talk about our beautiful lake and how we interrelate with it, bringing nature and people together. Thanks so much.
Thank you all.
Good night.
Night. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty. Fantastic.
Good job, Katie.
Thank you. Good job, David. Good job.
Good job, David.
Jim was fantastic.
Is Jim still with us?
Yeah.
I'm always blown away by how much I learned from these
there.
activities.
One of our upcoming chat presenters, we hope. And yeah.
Bruce, thank you so much for your questions.
Really great questions. And for a first run, really cool.
Yeah, that went really well. There were some amazing people there. Leslie Harris, the woman with the cat in the back that was looking through the microscope. She's the collections manager for the Natural History Museum in LA.
I know.
That's pretty cool.
She's the bird lady. She's the worm expert.
Yeah. So we find
amazing.
stuff. We got that connection there, man.
No,
you need that worm knowledge.
Oh yeah. The worms are going crazy at Lake Merritt. There's a lot of really interesting worms there.
Yeah.
And Damon has found some from Tahiti, and there's another one that just turned up. There's just a ton of really interesting things there right now.
Well, it looked like at your peak, you had about 76 people come.
Yes.
Nice. That
Which
is fantastic.
Pretty excellent. And even when it was all over and he was just answering questions, it was about 45. So that's tremendous. You should be
Yes.
so proud of you.
A success. Yay. And thank you. Couldn't have been done without everybody's teamwork. I felt so supported today.
For me, it's I've come a long way because I was so afraid of worms as a child. The men would try to take me fishing and I could never put it on the hook. I probably still couldn't.
Man, we used to have worm fights when it rained, you know, and the worms
at each other.
worm fights. Yeah.
You don't have to kill it and you don't have to kiss it. You just got to appreciate it.
And yes, I'm really excited about doing something with the invertebrates at the lake because they are just it's so salty right now. Everything is just continuing on into another year.
Yeah, no fresh water at all.
That'll start changing once if any rains show up, though, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know, we had that little ½ inch, and I went down before and after, hardly budged, maybe just a little tiny bit.
No.
So we didn't get very much. It takes a while to, you know, soak into the watershed and, you know, come on down. So.
Well, I'm gonna say goodnight, y'all. I'm gonna have
Patty,
2 baby showers tomorrow. I'm doing on Zoom for my daughter. So
that is so lovely. I really appreciate you giving us your time at this, you know.
Hey, well, all I did was it was so much fun letting all those people in. I wasn't quite sure how you wanted me to interact with the chat, and I should have asked you earlier what you needed. And I'm so sorry if I competed with you, David. It felt like
hopefully we got all the winners.
Highlight them, or should I speak up? Or there's all these questions, and should we just say it out loud or call the people?
I felt like it was good for us both to just because I was having trouble spotting them, and I was happy you were there. I couldn't have kept up with them without you.
Yeah, and I hope we got all the winners at least. But we'll have everybody who registered will have their email, and we can get through to them. So
yeah, so I mean, I wrote down the winners.
Nice.
To make sure you had them, and I got 2 emails if you don't have them.
Okay,
so
fantastic.
Do you want them now? When do you want them?
Oh, not right now.
Okay, you can go to bed.
Yeah, I think we can we copy the chat?
Listen, you guys, I was surprised by the knowledge base of the audience. And I guess I shouldn't be as much as I was, but wow. Okay, that's all I wanted to say.
No, we had we had a really you know, educated and
I mean, by knowledge base, I mean you know, their experience of Lake Merritt and its environs and the ecosystem that's going on there. Wow.
I was impressed that we had a high school kid and she asked a question. That was awesome.
I think there was a couple high school kids that were in there and looking at their teachers and stuff. It was a really wide span of ages, I think, through there.
Yeah.
But if you go to a talk on an amphipod, you kind of got to know what's going on.
Man.
It's not your everyday movie show. You check it out.
Before you go, let me write that word down. What is it? Amphipod?
Amphipod. AMPHIPOD versus isopod. And then everybody gets it mixed up with arthropod.
So I really feel good because there's somebody from Oakland Tech that I've been working with.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That is so nice. Yeah.
We still have some we still have some other people here who aren't showing themselves. Dean and Bruce and John Bowers are muted and they're listening.
John Bowers,
well, they're welcome.
I'm so glad you're here.
I know.
So glad you're here, John.
Maybe they fell asleep. Could be.
It could very well be.
Yeah, they're off having dinner and they just left their pads on.
Oh yeah.
Well, I'll talk to you guys later.
Okay,
bye.
Take care. Good
Bye,
luck.
Patty. Have a great day tomorrow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
You're welcome to babies.
Impending grannyhood. It's so wonderful.
Oh, I didn't realize they were grandbabies.
Yeah.
She's gone though.
I know. No, her daughter's having a baby in January.
Oh, I thought it was just like, I thought it was like the old days when you just go to your girlfriend's baby showers, not your own.
Oh. No, I thought it was, I thought it was a really good start. Rob, are you there? I mean, Rob Lamone. Rob Lamone. I think he may have said goodbye.
No, that's John. Who's that?
No, I was just wondering if Rob's still
Just
there.
went right now, it looks like.
But anyway, he was
So
awesome.
what happens with the stuff in the chat? How do we capture that?
I just copied and pasted it. Okay.
Oh, good job.
And then, so you can download a whole bunch of stuff from the Eventbrite website. You know, I will send you the list of people.
Oh, golly, I'll be trying to write down names. Thank you so much.
No, I think it's all gonna work. Okay, we're the last one standing here. I think we can say goodbye. Yes,
Okay,
it's
I'm
just you
going
and
to,
me, David. Okay, good job. We did it. I like this. I like I think the format is really good, and we'll get more slick about it. But I thought, you know, it was pretty good.
Thank you so much, Katie. I'm going to shelter in place all day tomorrow.
Yes. How are you feeling? Feeling okay?
Yes, I'm not feeling any symptoms, but I swear the person I was exposed to seems to be in bad shape.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
I mean, well, by that I mean super high fevers and tremendous body pains where they can't even get out of bed.
Oh, that's so scary. Oh my God.
It is. And so the deal is, once you're exposed, you wait 5 to 6 days for a test. So I'm going to do my test as part of a promotional thing to get other people to take tests at Splash Pad Park on Sunday. At least that's the plan.
Yes.
In conjunction with Nikki Boss.
Okay.
Who, she doesn't know I'm testing for my own reasons. She asked me to come down and help promote other people to take tests.
Yeah.
So, this guy, Ken Katz, called me about it. He's a publisher of the Splash Pad News. Are you familiar?
No.
I think maybe as the publisher of the Splash Pad News, that may mean he's the actual organizer of the farmers market there at Grand Avenue.
Okay.
And he would say, "Hello, David. My name is Ken. I'm so sorry, man. I didn't know you guys was having this event tomorrow night, because we would have wanted to put it in our newspaper, but we already went to print for December. I was calling to see if you guys are going to do it again so that we come out monthly, and we would like to. I just would like you to get it to me a few days before the first of the month for the rest of the series." So I thought that was pretty cool.
That's very cool. Well, I think we've got enough. We did have some high rolling participants, you know, and I think they'll see that, you know, this was a really nice thing. We got a lot of people from different walks of life speaking up, you know. I think it was, you know, it was certainly a thing that's different from most things.
Do you know that Terry? Did you know that Terry was with us tonight?
Yeah, and Diane Freestrom.
I guess you do. You know everybody there now.
Yeah, I see them, and I got the list of people who signed up. I invited Eddie. I invited Eddie. Yeah, and that's one thing we can do is I can go to the website and I can see who actually came, and I can see how long they stayed. So.
Right. I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah. You can find out all kinds of things. Yeah.
I only saw specifically 2 people that I invited, but it could have been more.
I'll send that to you and you can pour over it. It's about 5 or 6 pages of addresses.
I do have a few requests, like I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
For the taped event.
Yes.
And they may not have registered, so we want to be sure and get it to them.
Oh, you mean you just gave them the link without having them register?
I sent them the invite, and then they emailed me back saying they couldn't make it, but wanted to know if. So that's all.
Oh well, then you'll have to collect those emails because I won't have those.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Or I'll just I can I don't know if there's a link I can send them about the that to the recording.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Nice.
So yes, and Rob was great, and Patty were great.
Yeah.
Who's Maria? I don't know Maria. Do I know Maria?
Who was Maria?
A co-host.
There's Patty, a co-host?
Yeah.
Oh, you know who that is? I know exactly. That's Rob's wife. Rob's wife.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So Wow.
Wow, we did it.
Well, and all those people who must, I'm sure they must have just loved hearing about all of that, Katie.
Yeah.
And Jim, just such a trooper.
Yeah. So I can't wait. I missed the punchline I missed the punchline.
What punchline? I missed the punchline too.
I mean, like what? So what was it? So somebody else found a difference between the Lake Merritt beach hopper and the one in Chile. Somebody found some difference, which meant that it couldn't be the same species. And then 30 years passed, and then in last year, somebody found a species that was the same in somewhere else in the South Pacific.
I didn't hear the second part. What I heard was
what did you
the
hear?
excitement when they found out that it didn't match the Chilean thing, but he referred South America. But he got really excited because apparently it had been a big thing. And I thought that was the punchline, but maybe something else came up that I missed. So
yeah, I want to go out and find one of those buggers. I really want to go out and find one. Maybe
I like your background. Can you see my poster at all? You can't really see it.
Oh yeah, you can see it. Looks great. It says hella feminist. The 150 sounds good. There's a nice.
No, the one about the 150. Can you make out what it is?
Well,
No,
I recognize it really well.
Well, that's because I gotta fix that, make it bigger.
Yeah. I hope I got all that stuff. Like that one lady gave us a really nice bibliography thingy.
Was that her? I saw something in there, but that chat where it was so hard for me to try to track the questions and scroll through it and not, want to miss anybody. Because those people, some of them, they won't speak up unless you call for them, will they?
No. Huh. Oh yeah, so there's the thing. Oh yeah, amphipods from, oh yeah. Yeah, so what we should have is a library at, yeah.
There was one Pratt commissioner there that I saw.
Oh, that's our friend Steve Cochran. To everyone.
Oh, you're doing chats now? Is that what you're doing?
I am. Amphipods, Merritt amphipods are critical food sources for whales, fish, and birds. Well, they're not going to be getting them at Lake Merritt and are highly sensitive environmental alterations. All amphipods they care for their offspring. That's what's really interesting. And that I realized, and that was one of the things that was, I thought was key to, what's his name, understanding.
To who understanding?
Oh, okay. So, I don't know. I'm babbling. Okay, maybe we should say good night, and we'll harvest all that good stuff this weekend. We'll thank Rob, and I've got to get that thing going for the elks. I got to get elks money for so we can pay Rob to do more of this, right?
Okay,
I think we need it longer. We need a longer.
Not a holiday. Let's see if we can get our little group together next Friday.
Oh yeah. And also, we have a chance to go out and plant.
I'm on Zoom though,
Oh, on Zoom, yeah, for our Zoom meeting, yeah.
Betsy and Janice and Pat and whoever else would come.
Yeah.
Yeah. To debrief and touch base.
Oh man, I was so tired.
But I'm not gonna be able to. I probably won't be joining you on going out, Katie. I'm only gonna go out to do the test and come back.
No, I don't think you should. I don't want to associate with you anyway at this point. I want you to take care of yourself and yeah. But I think I will go out and do some trash picking, and I also I have some I do have some more posters to put up.
I'll say this.
Yeah.
I'm happy that Vanessa and Carl are as happy to join us as as Jim was.
Yes. Yeah, that's
I
great.
can say that much. When I finally got him, it took me a minute to get to him. Vanessa just had a baby, and Carl, oh my God, Carl, after spending an hour and a half on the phone with him today, as we hung up, I heard him talking to something called Alexis. Maybe that's how he does his calendar. And I heard him say, first he says, Alexis, do my calendar. So I hear a voice in the house say, how can I help you? He says, Friday, February 5th. And he says, what time did you say? And then I hear his son yell, oh, you can't stop talking now. You got to start all over. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. So then he says, okay. Okay, he says, okay, I'll do it again, but you don't have to stay on the phone, David. I'll let you go. We've been on goodbye. And as I'm hanging up, I hear him say, Alexis. And she says, how can I help you? He says, do my calendar. He says, and as he hangs up, it clicks off, I hear him say, Thursday. Yeah, so that's what it's like doing this. It's got me on pins and needles.
Yeah, so you got to get back and have it be.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, well, we'll get that. And hey, if it has to be Thursday, we'll just do it.
Big hurdle. We said Friday like 30 times in the conversation.
I know. So, he was probably like me. He was probably looking at a 2020 calendar, you know. I have to print out a 2021 one right now because I'm starting to make mistakes.
No, he's blind. He's not looking at no calendar.
Oh, right.
He's
yeah.
Just,
I know. Yes, it's like Siri. It's like Siri, only it's somebody else.
You know, it's weird that he can't track that necessarily, but when it comes to talking about what we're about, oh no, he's. I heard him present last night at another event, and yeah.
Wow. This is going to be great. So we have to do the publicity on that really well.
Well, I think we're off to a great start, but tonight was somewhat, and our outreach for this was a little bit, but yeah, we got time and another event between it, right? So by the time we get there and beyond, we should be looking pretty good.
Yeah.
We got 70 tonight.
Yeah, that's pretty good. You couldn't even fit those in the nature center. You could not fit them in the nature center. The fire code would be violated. Yeah.
Okay, we'll see.
That's great. Well, I don't know what our CFLM friends have cooking. I don't know.
Oh, well.
But
you know what? I'm just gonna let it go. But you know, I was thinking they probably taking good notes to see what they could do, to try to imitate us. But whatever.
They could probably do a really nice one about pollinators. But I mean, I think they have stuff to offer. But it's just it's nothing. It's not really against them and what they know particularly.
Well, I'm gonna go because
you're tired. I see. Me too.
No, that's not why. But yeah, I am. But I don't want to be untoward. But it occurs to me that in this process, if they're around and they're doing things that kind of undercut what I'm doing, that's not something that I'm necessarily that excited about seeing happen. So
yeah. We had the two teachers, Janet and Alicia. Did you see them? Janet and Alicia were joining us.
Which Alicia?
Alicia Fong and Janet Lau from Cleveland.
Because I invited Alicia Good, but
oh well,
I don't see her.
No, they had their scout was there. That was Diane Freestrom. Diane and who else? But Eddie didn't come. Okay.
No, he didn't come, but that's all right.
I did invite him. Yeah, I gotta.
That's nice of you. I haven't been able to gain access to the docents from the natural sciences department. You know that? Because I'm not in that area.
Yeah.
And they don't just share information over there. They're so weird about that sort of thing. They're very, very weird about it.
I know.
I felt like, I knew one or two of them, so I was able to send them a message. And eventually I'm going to gain access, by the way.
Yeah, I am.
And I'll be able to invite them in the future.
Yeah.
I just got to, because just by general interest, some of them might be interested, I think.
Yeah, I think so. We're going to have some good people.
Well, I already thought, yeah.
I'm real excited about Hillary. She's going to be great, I'd love to get clay, but I don't know what I think there's
I should
politics.
check and see if I have a number for him and try him myself, huh?
I have his phone number. I have his phone number. I have his email. I have everything. I'm not calling him by phone though. I don't know
Well,
why.
if you text me, I'll call him.
All right, sure.
I'll call him in a minute. Yep.
Okay.
Hey, buddy, what's up, brother?
Yeah. Yeah, let me do that. And then yeah, that sounds good. Okay. Nice.
All right.
All right then.
There's more, but why we should we'll get to it later. No sense doing it now.
With what?
All the other stuff. I was just thinking about I haven't gotten around to doing any outreach to the new council members. Just little things like that.
I did Cal.
He's not new though.
Oh, the new one. You're right.
Yeah,
No, I have another new
a
one.
couple of new ones.
Yeah.
But that's okay.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, what about Oakland side?
So they were here, I think. Ali Markovich, she was here.
Okay, good. Because I didn't. I sent this other guy Darwin an invite, but I don't think I sent Ali one. But,
well, she came. She came.
That's nice. That's nice. I'm glad you told me.
And I think that Kirsten knows her. So I have to write. I don't feel like writing thank yous to anybody. I feel like thanking myself and going to bed. But I think that we need to send some really nice thank yous tomorrow. It's okay to wait till tomorrow, right?
You mean to people besides Kirsten and Rob?
Rob was amazing.
Oh yeah, okay. You mean our people, not others.
I think we need a longer little 13 seconds though, or whatever. That was too short.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, that was just to get us started.
Yeah, but it needs to be about twice as long.
I was going to say, I think 30 seconds will be fine.
Yeah, and it needs to be a little faster pace too. And then we have some really good pictures of us, but it was pretty good. It was pretty good. And I like the bees. The bees was great, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. We have some video. We have a lot of video. But anyway,
didn't have enough time to put it together, kind of, sort of.
Yeah. No.
We can do that. And well,
it was a great idea you had, though. Yeah, you should see. I tried to do your thing with the distancing and everything. I tried to do
you did a pretty good job because I was in by then. Yeah, after when I finally normally I'm used to just clicking on the link and it goes right in.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But anyways, I got it all done and I watched you the whole time, and I thought you did a great job, Katie. No worries.
I was spinning my wheels.
I guess I didn't know that.
Oh my God, this is gonna be. I know, man. Okay, well.
It was the right crowd for that too, so it was great.
Yeah, I think they were very forgiving.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, you were preaching to the choir right there.
Yeah, that's exactly true.
Yes.
Yeah. We need to bring some more people in from that EJC group. I want to get them to do that, some stuff. We got to bring them in, more Team Oakland people. We got to get that planting done, Won't that be fun?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna see if Anthony Bald wants to go hunting for beach hoppers with me. I think I know where I know exactly where they are. They're not in the wall. They're in the that strand like area. I think I've actually gotten one at one time, but I just was not really. I didn't really take very good pictures or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you might be right.
I know I am. I'm not the best at the picture taking, but anyway. So one of the ways I recruited was at iNaturalist. Because there are like 9 different projects related to Lake Merritt. And one of them is like Adrian and I have the birds, and then Jim Carlton and I have the citizen monitor.
Well, you know what? The way Adrian showed up makes me feel like giving him a thank you too.
Oh, we should. I did thank you.
So,
but you know what? He plopped in that link, and that made me think, because I was looking at that link. I spent a lot of time at that link, And I was looking at, because that's where I found out who had found the beach hopper. It's really easy to find out who's found something there. And then I had this idea of highlighting the person, you know, and so that I thought that was kind of a cool touch there.
I didn't hear much from Damon.
Damon wasn't here. So Damon has,
I thought he was.
no, he has COVID in the family. He has some really serious COVID issues. But I do note that he does get around on Facebook. I feel like a little bit like he could have exerted himself to just at least come and, you know, but he's got family in the hospital on COVID. So, you know, so that's kind of sad.
Okay. What if Meadow took our series and ran them on the K-Top channel every now and then?
I'd love it. Yeah. I bet we could do that, huh?
I bet we could, yeah.
Yeah. Let's do it. The Katie and David show, or the David and Katie show. What?
Oh, you know what? I swear to God, I'm telling you, I like that. I think that you have to put it on our name of our show.
Yeah.
It's just out in the world.
Yes.
I like the idea of people thinking of us as David and Katie. It has like a ring to it.
Yes. No, I think,
you know, David's a nice name, Katie's a nice name. It's such, I think it's and plus it's kind of like formidable to me. Yeah. That's to me, it represents, see, it's almost like, well, see, David and Katie. So that's almost like if David don't get you, Katie will. If Katie don't get you, David will.
Right. Well, I'm really looking forward to this. We got some outreach and promotion to do, you know, to
yes,
in the next couple of months,
and to keep our audience.
Yes.
We want to keep them. But you know, they. I felt like many of them left with like a good feeling.
Yeah, me too. They wanted to get the news about the next one, and I thought the little slides were great.
I can't believe we're still talking. Something's come up I wanted to bring up with you in the group for consideration, and that is the East Coast time frame. I got one or two responses that they would have loved to join us, but they were on the East Coast and it was too late for them.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to put that out there for our consideration. I'm not sure what to do about it right now. Given our level of publicity and also, frankly, the convenience for us of the time frame.
Yeah.
Because even moving it 1 hour to 6, lose a sense of, you know, because at 6 p.m. people are just really still in that. Oftentimes,
yeah, some of them are still working and all
around the house and whatever deal.
No, I think 7 is perfect. 7 is, we want to keep that prime time as long as we can. And with this COVID's going to be around, where people are going to be inside, we're going to be able to have it for a few months.
I know I'm crazy, but
yeah,
what if we could have like in the future our regular show, and then then it followed by an East Coast airing that follows that.
Well, it's a cool idea. I think we have a cool idea going here. And it really is grows out of the general, you know, the idea that Cobell had and others have had, you know.
Yes, and of course he was with us tonight. I was happy to see.
Who was there?
Jim.
Cobell.
Yeah, yes.
Cobell was there? Did he come? No.
Yes. I think that. Let me see. Yeah.
Really? Oh, that's so cool.
Come on, man. I know. Let me see where I said.
So I can just find that out anyway.
Yes, he was there.
Oh, that's nice. That's so cool.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, we ought to say goodnight and pick up the pieces and shreds tomorrow. But I think it was a successful night for a maiden voyage of this kind. It was just pretty awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will be here at the house with my family.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be running around out to Sheffield Village and back, and I'm going to go to the lake and do some looking for invertebrates. If I don't get, I'm worried. I haven't heard from Andy Cohen. I hope nothing's bad's happening with him. I mean, like he doesn't answer my texts, phone calls, emails, or anything. So I'm going to ask Jim Carlton if he has a back channel, because he knows him pretty well.
I see.
Oh, so I'll ask him. Yeah. Okie doke.
Okay.
Take care. Well done. Well
Hey, I
done.
love your background, Katie.
Yeah, I
Okay.
do too. I'm keeping it.
It's a nice one. Okay.
Okay, I like yours too. Okay, take care.
Let me see
Okay,
how
bye-bye.
that's turned off here.
All righty. Okay, ending it.
All right.
Okay, bye. Bye-bye.